All right, let's go back to the debate. Watch the debate.
Yeah.
How do you feel that both candidates did in representing their candidacy for president?
God, I'm going to get flack for whoever is pro the person I talk about. And again, I'm saying this as someone who is still fairly neutral in this election year. I actually felt that Kamala Harris did pretty good. Better than I thought she was going to. I hadn't seen a lot from her leading up to last night. Obviously, everybody knows she hasn't done a lot of press conferences. She hasn't done a lot of public speaking before last night. And so I was sort of wondering if it would be a train wreck for her. I didn't get that sense. I did not get the sense it was a train wreck. I feel like she held her own. She remained calm. To the same vein, I kind of went into this thinking, okay, I feel like all Donald Trump has to do is not look like a nutcase. Just don't be childish. Don't be unnecessarily insulting. Don't be weird. Keep it together. And he may have this in the bag. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, in my opinion. I feel like confidence is quiet and insecurity is loud. And it very much felt like he was on the defensive. It felt like he got loud. He got defensive. It came across, whether he meant to or not, I think he said things that people took as being weird, and sort of almost made him take a step back, like, whoa, you're kind of nuts, which almost made it to where it didn't matter who said what about policy. We're now back to looking at the personalities and the demeanor and the way they are carrying themselves based off of actual answers. I also feel like there were a lot of questions not actually answered, which is frustrating. Like I said, I do also think there was a little bit of bias in what they were asked, and the moderators and the way that they handled each candidate felt a little biased at times. When people say things like who won the debate, from what I saw, I feel like I saw most of it. I saw at least an hour or so. I don't honestly know how long it went on. From what I saw, based off of what I know people to look at and feel, I think anybody who went into last night's debate already strongly supporting a candidate is still going to strongly support that candidate. Anybody who was real open-minded and real unsure, I think Kamala looked better last night.
Give a
Trump
numeric
did.
rating to each one, scale of 1 to 10.
Oh, God, I don't know. 10 being great, 1 being horrible?
Yeah.
I feel like Kamala probably got a 7. Trump maybe. From what I saw, I didn't see the end. Trump, I would probably place closer to a 4 or 5.
Okay.
And again, and I'm not saying that I am not pro either one. I truly have been looking at everything, trying to educate myself on everything they do, not listening to the smear tactics. If somebody says that somebody said something, I go see the context in which it was said, not listening to just BS that is spewed, but actually trying to go on policy. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times during a debate, they are so scrutinized off of things that have nothing to do with policy. It's how do you come across? And if we're going on how they came across, Kamala, I think, won.
Okay.
I feel like Trump looked a little nutty. At times. I didn't see the end.
All right.
Waiting for your rebuttal.
So I think this was one of the first debates in a really long time that was a traditional debate. If you think about what, the debate team did at a high school, they take a bunch of things that are going to be asked and they do a bunch of prep. They practice and rehearse what their answers are going to be.
Yeah.
They have so much material and facts and figures that they can speak eloquently, and articulately about those topics. And I think Kamala did an amazing job at debate prep. I know that she probably spent a lot of time in rehearsing those
absolutely,
answers. Okay? So from a aesthetic standpoint and how she did, I gave her high marks like you did. I don't think Donald Trump has ever debated or done debate prep ever. I think he's a riffer. I think he wings whatever he said. Anything that came out of his mouth was on the top of his head.
I agree.
So if you were to take could be more polished for it and had the best advisors and the best rehearsals when it became president, I think Kamala did a much better job.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a dynamic president, somebody who doesn't need the prep and can make decisions in the moment, I think that's your person. And so really that's the only new information. We saw Trump being delivered an element that was outside of what he's really good at, and Kamala put in the perfect element for what she is capable of. I'm also with you. I don't think any new decisions were made based on those two things. What we had in Trump, everybody knew. What we had in Kamala, again, I think some people are going to feel better about voting for her, being that the polish took.
Right.
Now, if 12 hours or 12 days of debate prep and she couldn't hold it together, then I know that this was hers to lose, and she didn't lose anything.
Right.
Right. And so I think we're pretty much at the same position pre-debate.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I said, like, I feel like all Trump had to do was keep it together.
But the craziness, I think that was already built into the cake. I think in the ways in which he was crazy was already known by all, and so nobody was scared off by that.
And I think another thing that Kamala did in the very beginning, which I'm like, that was good. And I feel like we've even talked about this. When you go to debate someone, bring out what your opponent's going to say. He is going to do this. He's going to do this. He's going to do this.
Absolutely.
And that's of course he did.
Yes.
You know, and I was like, oh, that was good.
And
that
debate
was good.
traps. She set some good traps for his reactions. She knew his weaknesses and capitalized on those weaknesses. So her strategy was really on point.
Yeah.
Now, here's the only loss. And this was not because of either candidate. The one loss was and this goes to Trump. Advantage goes to Trump here. Trump is going to stage the next 2 months about the victimhood of the entire establishment being stacked against him.
Oh, yeah.
He now has ammunition about what ABC did. We're fact-checking him and not his opponent. Had they not done that and not traded their integrity to help Kamala, he would have nothing to say about it. It would have been just a loss, and that's it.
Oh, I have already this morning seen multiple interviews with headlines like, it was 3 against 1. Everybody attacked him. He was set up.
But they fell into that trap. It was the same trap that Kamala played when interfacing, that they said, Trump set a trap. Go ahead, make it biased, and then I'll run on that.
Yeah.
Try to take shots on me, I'll run on that. Try to put me in prison. That is his whole platform now. And you give him more ammunition on that, and he's going to go gangbuster with it. Why would he not?
That's why when I mentioned earlier that clearly there was some bias in the questions. I cannot remember exactly what the question was. Trump had just gotten done talking, and they looked at Kamala and they asked her something to the effect of, do you think Trump will something, something, something? To which, of course, she's going to say yes. No, actually, I think Trump would be very good on that. Like, you gave that to her. Of course she's going to agree with that. Of course she's going to answer this way. When I heard that particular question, I went, are you kidding me? Why don't you just hand it to her? That was so biased. Yeah, so it's real hard to kind of, I don't know how you find actual completely thoroughly unbiased moderators. I don't know where you go.
Well, if you're not going to get it, you might as well, and I don't know, you read The Art of War?
No.
Famous war strategy. And Trump actually titled his book, The Art of the Deal. And I know, just based on what he does and how he acts, that he's a big fan of the strategies in The Art of War. And the principle that I saw was, if you know you're going to have a disadvantage, let the confidence of your opponent buy 100% into that disadvantage. And then you flank once they're too in-depth and entrenched in their mistake of going too far into what they thought was your weakness. You hit them from the flank, right? And then you take that advantage away. And I watched that happen. And like I said, if there was no bias, that was just an L for Donald Trump, and it would have been neutralized and whatever. But they gave Donald Trump a W because of that biasness from ABC.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. To me, it also felt a lot like, Kamala was trying to look like the person who's trying to stay positive. And Trump would look like somebody who was doing a lot of fear mongering and negativity. And it was like, it got to be where it felt like no matter what question he was asked, he would always come back around to the border and letting criminals in and what these criminals are doing, even if that had nothing to do with the subject matter they were on. And that got a little annoying to me. And I feel like she could use that to, like.
But she was in such that rehearsed cycle that she couldn't even take advantage of those softballs, not even softballs, the putting on a tee that he and he passed. I was, I kind of like what I would say if I were in that position.
Yeah.
And not one time did he respond how I would have responded, because there were some really easy left hooks that he could have thrown. Didn't take it because they were both in this weird cyclone.
And unfortunately, I think one of Trump's downfalls is his ego, to where she would insult him, and then he had the chance to come back with an actual legitimate argument, but instead would choose to push that aside and address the insult. The minor, ridiculous character smear, whatever. He would address that. She said people leave his rallies, they get bored. And he used the majority of his time to say, my rallies are great. Nobody leaves. Nobody's at your rallies. And I just went, oh my God, not important. Answer the question. Like, let it go and talk about what you have done that is better. That, he could have taken that to be something that was an opportunity to not show his ego, to actually come back on something or a policy that is better than hers. And instead, he's like, I'm going to not do that. I'm going to use my time to tell you why you're a big, stupid head. Well, is how that
But
felt.
he will never do that. His ego is his biggest strength.
Right.
It is in the ways that his supporters are supporting him. They like that he punches in the mouth. They like that he has big ego. They like his bravado, right? So nothing was minimized.
I mean, ego to an extent. There's confidence. And then
but it doesn't matter. In this realm, we're not trying to paint the picture of people who are awesome, right? Mm-hmm. Neither one of them are awesome.
Right.
So in our world, they could have done better, but at what expense? He just layered on. His biggest advantage is that he is acting on his ego almost 100% of the time.
I just feel like he's got to be so careful. I mean, when he made the comments about they're eating the family pet, I went, and I buried my face, and I just went, are you kidding me right now? Shut up. Like, he's got to rein it in at least a little bit. Like,
no, he repeated it, which meant that he couldn't wait to use that line. He prepared.
We all knew that was going to go viral.
For sure. And even the moderators had a response to what he knew they were going to say. So that was part of the strategy. So you got to almost like tolerate that you would have done something different and watch whatever Frankenstein of a debate this ended up being between two people who nobody would pick to be the representatives for the entire country, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we can't be surprised when it's not the perfect image of what we would do if we would have the perfect candidates.
Yeah.
It was a train wreck, a dumpster fire, everything we expected it to be.